Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Naruto observed how quiet it was in Konoha at night. There was hardly anyone out except for the few Anbu that patrolled the village. It was nothing like the land of frost where the night was filled with bangs and crashes, and the occasional scream. Naruto didn't like the quiet because if it was quiet someone may hear. Naruto had taken a shoot in the dark. He expected that the guards that had turned him away were the night guards. So Naruto had hid near the guard post right before the night shift, and long and behold the guards he wanted to show up did. He would have to wait a little longer and keep an eye out for the Anbu patrols, but other than that the plan was set. After Naruto determined enough time had passed and there were no Anbu around, he took 2 pebbles from his pocket and took aim. The guards weren't really paying attention to anything around them, and they looked pretty tried. This was good for Naruto since their reaction time was going to be slow. So Naruto sent the first pebble flying. The guard didn't even notice as the pebble entered his skull, went through his brain and out the other side. It was a clean shoot with hardly any blood splatter at all. The sight of his friend dying did of course put the other guard on alert, so he actually saw the second pebble coming at him. He pulled out a kunai to block the incoming projectile. It didn't do any good however, as the pebble was going so fast that it broke the kunai without losing much speed, and that guard met the same fate as his friend. Naruto got the hell out of there before Anbu found the bodies. Naruto got to his hotel room without anyone seeing him or the bodies. Naruto congratulated himself on a job well done. Naruto knew that once Jiraiya found the file and the bodies he would put 2 and 2 together and Naruto would be the prime suspect, but without any evidence there was nothing Jiraiya could do. After all, Naruto had just used 2 pebbles he found off the side of the road, nothing that could be traced back to him, and if Jiraiya asked for an alibi then Naruto's genin would give him one. Naruto went to sleep thinking about the upcoming Chunin exams. Minato and Jiraiya were looking at the 2 dead guards being examined by medical ninja and Anbu. Jiraiya was pissed. He had just discovered the file of Accelerator's visit and was wondering why he had come to the Leaf as a child. He had planned to ask the guards about it since something seemed off about their testimony. To his surprise however, he showed up and saw Minato and 2 dead guards. Jiraiya explained this all to Minato and Minato was surprised to say the least. "I never thought I'd hear about that case again. Truth be told, I had completely forgotten about it till now," Minato said. "Damn, he was one step ahead of me," Jiraiya swore. "Is there anything here that can prove he did it?" Minato shook his head. "No, they were killed by pebbles of all things, and although I don't know any ninja who uses pebbles as a weapon, any jounin or higher could have thrown it fast enough it pierced someone's head." "Can't we get him for that Anbu he murdered that night since now we know who did it?" Jiraiya asked. "No, because we can't take action for any previous crime since he's here for the Chunin exam," Minato said. "So we can't do anything to him then?" Jiraiya said. "That's about right, but I want to know it. Why did he kill them? He can't be punished for the Anbu murder, so why bother killing these guards?" Minato said, trying to think of an answer. "They must have known something that Accelerator didn't want used to know about, but if that's the case why did he tell them in the first place or even come to the village that night, and if it was something we couldn't know about why didn't he kill them that night along with the Anbu? This just doesn't make any sense," Jiraiya said, truly stumped as what Accelerator could be thinking. "I don't think we're going to find out anytime soon, but I'll make sure to have Anbu keep an eye on him," Minato said. The day of the Chunin exams was nice as sunny. The academy was bustling with activity. There were genin from all over the elemental nations, all looking for the chance to become Chunin. Naruko, Minima and Sasuke were no exception. They walked through the halls of the academy, hardly being able to believe that they were students here no so long ago. They walked past an obvious genjutsu on the 2nd floor and proceed to the 3rd floor. When they got there they were greeted with an ear-shattering scream of Sasuke. Then Sakura and Ino jumped him from both sides before arguing about who got there first. Can you two give it a rest already? Kiba said, walking over with Shino. Try not to get involved, it would just be too troublesome. Shikamaru said, walking over with Choji. I'm glad to see you guys haven't changed a bit. Minima chuckled. Yeah, well, I wish some of us had. Kiba said, looking over at Sasuke, who was still trying to get Sakura and Ino off him. So it looks like we're taking the Chunin exam together. Choji said in between taking bites of his chips. Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. Naruko said. You guys may want to keep it down, you drawing some looks. A man with glasses and a leaf headband said as he walked towards them. It was only then the group looked around to see that the other genin were looking at them with not so friendly faces. Oh, our bad. Thanks for the advice. Minima said. It really no problem, I'm glad to help out some rookies. My name's Kabuto, by the way. Rookies? So you must have taken this exam before? Choji asked. Yes, 7 times in fact. Kabuto said. That many? Sakura asked, having a hard time believing it. Well, it's not all that bad. I've been able to get a lot of information from all my times taking it. Kabuto said, pulling out a bunch of cards. I have a little bit of something on every one. Sasuke suddenly looked at Kabuto with a serious expression. Do you have anything on a guy named Gaara and one named Accelerator? Who are those guys? Ino asked Sasuke. Some guys we meet a little while ago. They talked a big game and basically thought that we weren't even worth their time. Sasuke replied. What, how dare they? Sakura yelled. There is no way they could best you, Sasuke, not in a million years. Naruko and Minima weren't so sure. Sasuke might be strong, but those two just had something about them that screamed danger. You know their names that make it too easy. Kabuto said, looking through his cards. What they didn't know was that Kabuto had more than just a little bit of information on Accelerator. After all, the man himself did come and make sure Kabuto added a couple of tidbits to his card. We'll start with Gaara. Kabuto applied chakra to the card and a picture of Gaara appeared. Wow, this guy's intense. He completed a B-rank mission as a genin. The group looked at the card with wide eyes. There was a genin that strong taken the Chunin exam. Bug deal, we fought one of the 7 swordsmen. Naruko said. There's another thing too. Kabuto said, and the group looked at him with anticipation. All the missions he's done, he has come back without a scratch. This information actually shook Naruko and the other up. Man, this guy isn't someone we should mess around with. Kiba said. Now let's see about Accelerator. Kabuto said, taking a card and looking at it, but when he did, his face changed to utter horror, which only put the rookies more on edge. What is it? Minima asked. This guy, I don't even know what to say. Kabuto said, trying to keep calm. He's your guy's age, but he's not a genin. He's a jounin, and a B-rank threat in the bingo book. Any fear the group had about Gaara was immediately replaced with Accelerator. How is that possible? That's only 1 rank lower than Kakashi. Minima said. I don't know, but it's all here. Kabuto said. He recently became a jounin for the hidden sound. His genin team is Zaku, Kin, and Dosu. Not only that, but the rumor is that Accelerator has been with his genin team less than a month. He also got his B rank when he killed an entire genin team. Jounin Sensei include all by himself. The rookies paled. Even Sasuke and Naruko, who were the most eager to fight strong opponents, weren't looking too good. What kind of guy has that much power? Naruko asked. And apparently just like Gaara, he's never been hurt on a mission. Kabuto added. Well, at least since he's a jounin, we wouldn't have to face him. Sakura said, sounding relieved. That might be true, but we still have to deal with his genin team, and who knows what they're like. How about we show you? A voice said, and then a guy who was covered in bandages appeared right in front of Kabuto. The guy threw a punch that Kabuto barely dodged. At least they thought he dodged, but then his glasses broke and Kabuto fell to his knees and vomited. "Kabuto!" yelled Minama and Naruko as they ran over to him. "I'm okay," Kabuto said, getting to his feet. "You three certainly did show me, and I have concluded that you are just as crazy and dangerous as your sensei," Kabuto told the three ninja from the sound. "Please don't put us on the same level as our sensei," the female said. "He's way more insane and dangerous than we are." "But that doesn't mean you shouldn't watch yourself," the other male of the group said. Naruko wanted to say something back, but before she got the chance, an eruption of smoke came from the far end of the room. When the smoke disappeared, a man in a black trenchcoat stood in front of the genin with what looked like a small army behind him. "Knock it off, you sound ninja. Do you want to be disqualified before the exams have even begun?" the man said. "Sorry, sir," the ninja with the bandages said, although it was clear he didn't mean it. "I'm name is Ibiki, your first examiner and your worst nightmare," he said. "Now you have 5 minutes to grab a number and get inside this room or be disqualified." This of course made every rush towards the room. Naruko got a seat right next to Sakura towards the front of the room. When everyone was inside, Ibiki started explaining the test. They would start with 10 points, and if they were caught cheating, then they would lose 2 points. If one of them lost all their points, then their whole team would fail. The last question would be given in the last 10 minutes, and that was all there was to it. Ibiki started the clock. The test begun. Naruto opened the doors and everyone in the room looked at him. They didn't look too happy either. Naruto could guess why. He was less than 3 times their age after all. Naruto kept walking, ignoring the other Jounin hate-filled stares. Naruto was in a lounge that all the Jounin senseis were allowed to use while they wanted for their genin. Naruto noticed that all the Jounin stuck to their little groups. Waterfall ninja with other waterfall ninja. Leaf ninja with other leaf ninja. There was no mingling with the other shinobi. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't have a group to seat with since he was the only sound Jounin in the leaf. Naruto looked around the lounge to see where he could sit when he noticed that it wasn't just Jounin in the lounge. Sitting at the leaf's table was none other than the Hokage and his wife. He was chatting with a bunch of other Jounin. There was Kakashi, a guy with a bowl haircut, another guy with a cigarette and a beard, and a woman with eyes as red as Naruto's own. Naruto walked over to their table. "Hello Hokage, mind if I sit here?" Naruto asked. Minato gave Naruto a look that showed he was obviously not invited, but when Naruto didn't leave, Minato said he could. Naruto sat down right across from the Hokage. No one wanted to talk, which led to some very awkward silence. Kushina wanting to do something about it and tried starting up a conversation. "Accelerator, right? You're so young to be a Jounin." "Yes, Lady Hokage, I'm a little young, but it's not so unheard of, is it? I heard that Itachi Uchiha became a Jounin even younger than I did," Naruto said. "Well, yes, I guess that's true. How do you like the leaf?" Kushina asked. "It's nice, although it's very different from what I'm used to," Naruto replied as a waiter came by and he ordered a drink. "Well, I'm pretty sure everyone likes their home better than anywhere else," Kushina said. "I guess so, but hey, I heard you daughters are participating in the Chunin exams. You must be proud of them," Naruto said. "I am, and I'm sure you're proud of you Genin as well," Kushina said. The waiter came by and handed Naruto his drink. "I am proud of them, I just hope they don't go killing every other Genin team, especially the one your daughter's on. After all, you've already lost 2 kids, it would be tragic to lose the other 2. I think if I was that terrible a parent I would kill myself." Naruto took a drink of his beer with his eyes on Kushina. Everyone fell dead silent. No one ever brought up Kushina missing kids. It was a very touchy subject for her, and not only did this guy bring it up, he just implied that his Genin team was going to kill her daughters. Kushina was gripping the side of the table with shaking hands. Her hair was covering her eyes so no one could tell what expression she had, but it couldn't be good. Kushina just clammed down. Minato said, trying his best to not let things get out of hand. Kushina didn't listen however as she stood up and hit the table so hard that it spilt in half. "Listen up, bastard!" Kushina yelled as Naruto sat there calming sipping his drink. "You and your genin might be some big shoots in the tiny little village you call home, but this is the big leagues and there's no way your wimpy little genin could ever beat my girls. So when you have to take them back to your village bloody and defeated, just remembers this conversation." The only sound in the whole room was Naruto taking the last sip of his drink. Then he placed it on the table, but because the table was broken down the middle, the bottle rolled off and fell to the floor with a crash. "I think you're the one who thinks they're a big shoot," Naruto said, standing up. "There are a lot of things you don't know, but you'll find out before the Chunin exams end, and when you do, just remember this conversation," Naruto said, walking to the doors. "You know, I've known a couple people like you," the man with cigarette said. Naruto stopped and looked back at him. "People who are so powerful that they think they're invincible, but let me tell you something, there will come a time where you are real trouble and have to admit you lost." Naruto smiled at him. "I know that I'm not invincible. I know that it's possible that someone may be able to hurt me one day, but it's also possible that the sun won't rise tomorrow. But let's face it, the sun is going to rise tomorrow, and it's going to keep rising." Naruto then left the lounge. Minato watched him leave. It had taken all of his self-control to not do what Kushina had done. Accelerator had walked into the leaf like he owned the place and had done whatever he wanted. Minato was positive he had killed those guards, but there was still nothing he could do about it. There was, however, something his daughters could do. When they wiped the floor with Accelerator's genin, Accelerator would finally lose that cocky attitude and Minato would enjoy every second of it. Naruko had figured out the point of the test. The problem was that she didn't have any good way to cheat. Sasuke could use his Sharingan, and Minamo was sure to figure out something, but Naruko had no idea. She could try glancing over at Sakura's paper since she seemed to know the answers, but not only was she likely to get caught that way, but it would also take too long. Naruko went over every jutsu she had to see what she could do. Then an idea hit her. She did some hand signs under her desk and slammed her palm on the underside of the desk. Naruko sneezed to cover up the popping sound of her summon. A small orange toad was now sitting on Naruko's lap. "Hey, what's you dash?" Gamakichi tried to say, but Naruko put her hand over his mouth. "You need to be quiet," Naruko whispered. Gamakichi nodded and Naruko let go. "Why did you summon me?" Gamakichi asked. "I need a distraction so I can cheat on this test. You think you can do that?" Naruko said. "Sure thing," Gamakichi said as he hopped off Naruko's lap. When he was a little ways away, he jumped on top of a girl's test. The girl was so shocked by the sudden appearance of a toad that she screamed and tried to hit it. This caused everyone in the room to look and see what was going on. Gamakichi hopped around the whole room with everyone trying to catch him, but no one succeeding. Eventually Ibiki calmly walked up to where the toad was hopping around and with a flick of the wrist he caught him. "Well, looks like that's it for me," Gamakichi said before disappearing. "Everyone go back to your tests and shut up," Ibiki yelled. Everyone did just that, but luckily for Naruko she now had every question filled out. Now all she had to do was wait for the last question. When the time ticked down, Ibiki called the class's attention. "I'm only going to say this once, but you can choose whether or not to take the final question." "Why wouldn't we take the question?" someone said. "Because if you miss this question you'll be a genin forever. If that's too much pressure then feel free to leave," Ibiki said. This got the class discussing and a couple teams did leave. When it looked like no one else was going to leave, Ibiki said they all passed, which led into a speech on about being a chunin. Then something really strange happened. Something came through the window and a giant banner was displayed with a woman with purple hair standing in front of it. "Hello maggots, I'm your next examiner, Anko," the woman said. The class was too stunned to say anything. "You're early, Anko," Ibiki said from behind the poster. "Whatever, no one wants to hear your speech anyways," Anko said. "Now you maggots, you are to run to the forest of death, and make it double time." Anko then jumped out the window with the genin following. All the genin teams made it to the Forest of Death, where Anko made then sign a release form that explained to them the test. It was pretty simple, but it guaranteed that at least half of them would fail. Naruko, Minama and Sasuke got an Earth Scroll before heading into the forest. The Forest of Death really earned its name. They hadn't been there for too long, but Naruko already lost count of the thing that tried to eat her. It was frustrating because they had to keep using time and energy to fight these things. It took them the entire day to finally find a team. Well, team wasn't really the right word since it was only one person. Did you get lost? Minama taunted the grass nim. The grass ninja sent them a wicked smile. You three are quite the bunch, the grass nin said. Then out of nowhere a giant purple snake appeared and hit Naruko with its tail, sending her flying off into the forest. The snake went after her and Minama and Sasuke were going to follow it, but the grass nin rushed them. The grass nin was really good at taijutsu. He kept finding openings in Minama's and Sasuke's defense. He was also hard to hit since he was able to bend at impossible angles, and when Minama did manage to hit him with one of her chains, it would turn out she just hit a log. So things were going bad. Come on, I thought you'd be more of a challenge. Aren't you an Uchiha and the Hokage's daughter? The grass nin said. Sasuke sent a fur ball at him, and Minama used the flame to hide her chain. She felt the chain hit something, but when the fire cleared, it was just another log. Nice try, the grass nin said from right behind them. How did he get there? Minama thought right before the grass nin kicked her in the stomach. She was sent flying, but used her chains to dig into the ground and stop herself. She was still sent a pretty good distance away, however, which gave the grass nin some quality time with Sasuke. Come on, Sasuke, are you really this weak? The grass nin said as he easily dodged Sasuke kunai swigs. Sasuke didn't say anything since he was running out of energy. He could feel his movements becoming more sluggish, but then a kunai was suddenly beside the grass nin and it had an explosives tag on it. Sasuke and the grass nin broke apart to avoid getting blown up. Too bad for the grass nin. Minama and gotten back to them and had wrapped a chain around the grass nin's arm, keeping him from moving. Sasuke, without thinking, sent a fireball at him. The grass nin went up in flames. Minama rushed to Sasuke as he collapsed to his knees. Sasuke, are you alright? Minama asked. Yeah, I'm fine, just used too much chakra. By the way, thanks for the help, Naruko, Sasuke said, looking up at the trees. Naruko jumped down and landed in front of Sasuke and Minama. I didn't do that much, I just threw one kunai, she said. Yeah, but that one kunai gave us the opening we needed, Minama said. That was actually pretty good, the grass nin said, emerging from the fire. Although now Team 7 could see that he wasn't a grass nin. Half his face had peeled off, reviling someone that was hated by the whole village. Minama clenched her fist and bit her teeth together. Sasuke and Naruko could see the rage building up inside her. Orochimaru, what are you doing here? Orochimaru gave a snake-like smile. That's it. Come on now, Minama, I haven't seen since you were a baby. This only made Minama more pissed. Orochimaru, where is my brother? Minama hissed. Wouldn't you like to know? Orochimaru said. That was the final straw for Minama. She charged at Orochimaru, all strategy and reason leaving her mind. Minama, don't, we can't fight him, Naruko screamed, but it fell on deaf ears. Minama continued to ran at Orochimaru. You're not the one I came here to see. So could you please leave me alone? Orochimaru said, bringing his hand into a fist. When Minama got close enough, he went for her stomach. She wasn't even thinking about dodging and would have been hit if it wasn't for Naruko pushing her aside just in time. Minama went tumbling to the ground, getting dust and dirt all over her clothes. What the hell? Minama said, sitting up only for her to go speechless. In front of her was Orochimaru with his fist logged inside Naruko's stomach. The punch that Minama should have been hit with. Naruko's face was twisted in pain. When Orochimaru brought back his hand, Naruko fell to her knees, then vomited blood before completely collapsing into it. Then Orochimaru's neck extended to an impossible length all the way to Sasuke. "My gift to you," Orochimaru said before biting Sasuke's shoulder. Sasuke's scream was horrible and Minama was sure that the whole forest could hear. Thankfully it didn't last long as Sasuke passed out from pain. Orochimaru retracted his neck, looking very pleased with himself, then looked Minama in the eyes. Minama was too scared to move as Orochimaru walked towards her. He stopped just in front of her and said something that would haunt Minama for a long time to come. "You know Naruto is much more behaved than you three." Minama had no idea how long she sat there staring off into the distance. All she knew was that when she did regain her senses, Orochimaru was gone and the sun was setting. Minama stood up on shaky legs. It was only now she realized how hurt she was. Her clothes had cuts and rips all over them. Her hair was tangled in knots and her skin was bruised. The sad part was that she was in best condition on her team. Sasuke was out cold in a not-so-peaceful sleep. Naruko's face and hair was stained with her own blood and her stomach was tinted red. Thankful the Kyuubi had taken care of most of her injuries, but Naruko didn't seem like she would be waking up anytime soon. Minama knew they couldn't stay where they were, so she dragged Sasuke and Naruko to a cave she found nearby. She tried to treat them as best as she could, but she was no medic nin. All she could really do was make them comfortable and make sure that no one else attacked them. She worked into the night setting traps. Minama was exhausted and hurt, but she was the only one who could keep watch, so she would have to stay up. She sat by the entrance of the cave trying not to fall asleep. More than once she was almost taking to the land of dreams, but managed to keep herself awake by telling herself that once Naruko woke up she could sleep. The night turned into day and the day came with problems. Minama was so tired that she couldn't really say she was keeping watch, she was just keeping her eyes opened. That's why the voice in front of her shocked her so much. "You're not a very good lookout, are you?" For the first time in a while Minama actually saw what was in front of her, and it was the people she less wanted to see. Accelerator's Genin team was standing on front of her with smug looks, and to Minama's displeasure, well rested. "Why don't you wake Sasuke so we can have a little fun with him?" Dosu said. "I won't let you touch them," Minama said. She was a little more awake now, being faced with an enemy, but even she knew she was in no shape to fight them, as it felt like it took a lifetime to get to her feet. She threw a few kunais at them, but they were going so slow that an academy student could have blocked it. Dosa did just that and the kunais bounced off his gauntlet. "That was just sad," Kin said as the three genin jumped towards Minama. Minama shot two chains from her hands at the three, but once again they were just too slow. "Damn it, why am I so weak?" Minama thought. They were closing in on Minama and she was just too tired to dodge. There was nothing she could do. Then suddenly a green blur appeared out of nowhere. The blur managed to kick all three of the genin away before landing to revel it was actually a person. Minama couldn't believe she had just been saved and asked the question that everyone was thinking. "Who are you?" The boy stood up to his full height. "I am the handsome devil of the leaf, Rock Lee." Minama didn't know what to say. A guy she didn't even know had saved her and her team. Dosu was not amused. "You should have never come to save your girlfriend, since now you're the one who's going to be put in the ground," he said, rolling up his sleeve to reveal his gauntlet, and rushed Lee. "No, you will be the one in the ground," Lee said before disappearing. Dosa stopped wondering where Lee went when he heard something beneath him. Front lotus. Dosa got a sharp kick to his chin which pushed him into the air. The Lee suddenly appeared behind Dosu and wrapped him bandages, then slammed him to the ground right after Zaku softened it. Lee returned back to his position in front of Minama while Dosa pulled himself out of the ground. "Now you've pissed me off," Dosu said. He rushed Lee inside, swung at Lee. Lee managed to block, but then his ears started to bleed. Lee felt dizzy and couldn't see straight until he eventually fell to the ground. Big talk from someone so weak. Now on to Sasuke. Minima was in real trouble now. Lee was out of the picture and it was still 3 against 1. Luckily fate seemed to be on Minima's side. Human bullet tank. A voice yelled and then a huge green ball came rolling at Zaku, who was forced to dodge. After the green ball missed, it shrunk down to Rebel. It was Choji with Ino and Shikamaru behind him. The worms just keep coming. Doso commented. Oh man, this is such a drag. Shikamaru said. Hey, you can at least act like you're willing to help out our friend. Ino yelled at him. Guys. Minima said, about ready to cry. So couldn't believe that so many people were willing to help her, even thought they were supposed to be enemies in this test. I've had just about all I can take with you, Leaf Ninja. I'm going to kill you. Dosa said, but when he tried to run at Ino he discovered he couldn't move. What is going on? Then Dosa noticed that there was a shadow connected to a smirking Shikamaru. Shadow imitation technique. Shikamaru said, then moved his arms up, forcing Dosu to do the same. Kin, Zaku, do something. Dosu said. Alright Kin, what should we do? Zaku asked, only to notice that Kin wasn't responding. Kin, what wrong? Sorry, this isn't Kin right now. Please try again. Kin said, pointing over to Ino, who was lying unconscious. So you took over Kin's body. Well, in that case. Zaku blasted a strong gust of wind at Kin, causing her to hit a tree. How could you do that? She's your teammate. Minima yelled. But right now she's someone else. Kill her, Zaku. Dosu said. I wouldn't do that. A voice from the tree said. Everyone looked up to see Niji standing on a branch. Doso's face was twisted in anger. They were outnumbered and 2 of them weren't even able to move anymore. Things were getting really bad, and it only got worse when he and everyone else felt an evil aura coming from Sasuke. He had these black markings all around his body and he seemed to glow purple. In the blink of an eye he had pushed Zaku to the ground and dislocated both his arms. It was such a horrific scene that Shikamaru let go of his jutsu. Sasuke, stop it. This isn't like you. Minima shouted, nearly crying. This seemed to break whatever spell was on Sasuke as the marking disappeared and he looked around confused. What happened? We're being attacked. Minima answered, glad Sasuke snapped out of it. Sasuke turned to the only able-bodied sound ninja, but the sound nin held up his hand. Stop, I know when I'm defeated, so I'll cut you a deal. He laid a heaven scroll on the ground. You take this and we get to leave. Minima and Sasuke glared at him, but accepted in the end. Once he left, Shikamaru and Choji woke up Naruko and they, along with everyone else, demanded to know what happened. Minima explained their run-in with Orochimaru to the people who weren't there. So Orochimaru is in the leaf. That's a scary thought. Ino said. I'm more worried about that mark on Sasuke's shoulder. Lee said once he recovered. Yeah, I'll have to get someone to look at it. Sasuke said. Naruko, there's one other thing I want to mention. Minima said. What is it? Naruko asked. After you and Sasuke passed out, Orochimaru brought up Naruto. Everyone in the group gasped. What did he say? Ino asked. Nothing much, but one thing I know for sure is that Naruto's still alive. Minima replied. Well, that's a good thing. Shikamaru said. Yeah, but it just makes me so mad that Orochimaru still has him. Minima said. You should tell your dad. Ino said. But I have to get out of this forest first. Minima said. But you have the scroll that guy left. Choji said. But I can't take that. Minima said, waving his hands in front of her. I didn't do anything to fight them. That doesn't matter. Ino said, handing her the scroll. If Orochimaru really is in the village, then you telling your dad is much more important than the Chunin exams. Minima looked at everyone with tears in her eyes. Thanks everyone. Just make sure to get your brother back. Ino said, giving her the thumbs up. I want to see how hot he is compared to Sasuke. Everyone laughed at Ino's comment. I'll make sure of it. Minima said, giving Ino the thumbs up. But first I really need to get some sleep. Minima said, falling to the floor. The last thing she heard before falling asleep was Naruko saying, "Don't worry Minima, this time I'll keep watch over you." When Minima woke up from her well-deserved rest, the team headed out for the tower. They got there in just under the 2-day mark. They were surprised to learn that they were the third team to arrive following Gaara's team and Team 8. Minima wanted to tell her dad about Orochimaru right away, but they were forbidden to leave the tower until the test was done. So they spent the rest of the time waiting. More teams filed in, and by the end of the test there were a total of 7 teams. Most of them were Leaf, but unfortunately the Sound team made it too. They were all taken to a big room where the Hokage explained the purpose of the Chunin exams as well as announced they would be holding a preliminary. He also offered anyone the chance to drop out if they didn't think they were ready. Kabuto did. Minima suggested that Sasuke do the same because of that mark, but he said he would finish the preliminary then have it looked at. The remaining genin were told to go wait in the balcony with their Jonin senseis. Naruko couldn't help but notice that all the Leaf Jonin were eyeing the Sound genin as they walked up to Accelerator, who was leaning over the railing looking incredibly bored. When Minima met up with Kakashi, she told him everything about their encounter with Orochimaru, but Kakashi surprised her when he told her that he and the Hokage already knew. Then he went on to tell Sasuke about not letting the cruise seal get out of hand, and that after his match he would been sent to Itachi so he could remove it. Then the huge screen in the room lit up and showed the names of the first match. Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akato. At the start of the match it looked like Sasuke was going to lose due to his chakra being drained, but he managed to beat his opponent by using taijutsu and some clever thinking. Then Sasuke and Kakashi left to go see Itachi on the curse mark. Zaku Obumi vs Shino Aburame. Even though one of Zaku's arms was unusable, he still fought. Shino used a series of assaults with his bugs, and when it looked like Zaku was surrounded he revealed that he could use his other arm. It didn't change anything however, because when he tried to blast air at the bugs his arms exploded, making Shino the winner. The Leaf Jonin looked glad that one of Accelerator's genin got his ass handed to them, but Accelerator didn't seem concerned. Masumi Tsurugi vs Kankuro. It looked like Masumi had won the match within a couple seconds of starting by threatening to break Kankuro's neck, but Kankuro revealed that Masumi was only attacking a puppet. Then the puppet broke Mishmi's bones, making Kankuro the winner. Ino Yamanaka vs Sakura. The match was as average as it could get. The girls battled it out in a series of punches and kicks, but neither one of them did anything that really posed a serious threat to their opponent. The match dragged on and Accelerator had no problem expressing how stupid the match was. The match ended with Ino pulling off a semi-impressive ninjutsu that Sakura managed to break out of. Then they knocked each other out. Tenten vs Temari. Temari wiped the floor with Tenten. It wasn't like Tenten was a bad ninja, it was just that her matchup couldn't have been worse. Temari used her giant fan to blow away all of Tenten's weapons, and the Tenten herself was set flying into the air only to land on Temari's fan. Shikamaru Nara vs Kin Tsuchi. Kin was able to use Senbons and string to throw Shikamaru off his game, but Shikamaru ran his shadows under Kin's wire and got her to hit her head against the back wall, giving him the victory. All the Leaf Jonin and even the Hokage looked really excited. If Accelerator's last genin could be taken out, then he would be forced to leave the Leaf. What they didn't know was that Naruto didn't care if all his genin were defeated. If that happened, then Naruto just wouldn't take part in the invasion, and that was perfectly fine with him. Kiba Inuzuka vs Naruko Namikaze. It was a fight between the Leaf's biggest hotheads. The fight was pretty even at first, with Akamaru transforming into Kiba then attacking Naruko using his Fong passing Fong technique. Naruko match. Him blow for blow however by making a ton of Shadows clones and piling them up to slow Kiba down. This kept Naruko from taking any blows, as Kiba had to sort through shadow clones that would just replace themselves as soon as they were destroyed. Eventually Kiba ran out of chakra and was forced to give up the match. Minima Namikaze vs Niji Hyuga. Minima got ready to face Niji. She knew about the Hyuga's gentle fist technique, so Minima would have to keep her distance. When the fight started, neither one of them made a move. Then Niji started to tell her how he was going to win the match because of fate, and that she should just give up now. Minima, however, wasn't going to give up just because some prick told her to, so if Niji wouldn't make the first move, then Minima would. Minima slammed her hand on the ground, sending her chains under the floor and over to Niji. When the chains burst through the ground, Niji easily evaded them. Minima kept pulling her chains back underground and kept trying to hit Niji, but every time he would dodge with elegant movement. "You know you'll never hit me like that," Niji said, pointing to his eyes. "You chains might look a little different, but there's still chakra which my eyes can see even though the ground." Minima hissed, knowing he was right but not wanting to give her attack. She would have kept trying too, however Niji worked his way closer and closer to Minima. Minima knew that she couldn't beat Niji in a taijutsu battle since that was his specialty. She kept backing off, throwing kunais to halt his approach, but she could only keep him off for so long. Niji was slowly making his way towards Minima, not wanting to take any risks, but if he got close enough or impatient enough, then he could charge her, and Minima wasn't sure she would be able to stop him. It was only too late that Minima realized that she had backed up all the way to the wall. Her only option now was to run past Niji or try to fight him off. Fighting him off next to a wall was defiantly not a good idea, so she tried to run around him. That was when Niji made his move. Right when Minima took one step forward to run away from the wall, Niji rushed in front of her, forcing her in an awkward fighting position. Minima's first instinct was to shoot her chains at Niji, but when she brought her right arm up, Niji hit the chakra points on her arm, leaving it more or less useless. It was all downhill from there. With Minima not able to use her domain arm and being forced to fight against a wall, Niji was able to hit all her chakra points. To Minima's credit, she didn't do a terrible job defending, but as more of her chakra points were hit and more of her body becoming useless, it was a losing fight. The match was called with Niji the winner after Minima collapsed to her knees. It was a good fight, it was just that Niji had more experience and could read Minima moves. Minima was brought back up to the balcony, where So was forced to sit near the railing to be able to watch the rest of the fights. Lee vs Gaara. The match started off not looking good for Lee. Gaara's sand, which his siblings called the ultimate defense, stopped Lee dead in his traces. So everyone in the arena was surprised when Lee took off his leg weight and was suddenly able to get through Gaara's defense, which was apparently the first time it ever happened. Gaara had to resort to using his sand armor. Lee managed to kick him away from his gourd and it looked like he would win, but Gaara got a hold of Lee's arm with his sand and in a gruesome display crushed it. Then he did the same with Lee's leg. Gaara probably would have killed him too if Guy didn't step in. Choji Akimichi vs Dosu Kinyuta. The final was the match that all the jounin were looking forward to. It would decide if Accelerator got to stay or not. It didn't help that Choji wanted to quit before the match even started, however. Luckily Asuma managed to talk him into fighting by offering him food. Choji immediately used his human bullet tank to stop Dosu-san from reaching him. It was a good plan, but all Dosu had to do was use the water in Choji's body to transmit his sound, leaving him as the winner, much to the disappointment of the Leaf. All the victors drew a number to see who they would fight in the tournament after the month-long break. Naruko would fight Niji, something that Naruko was ready to do since he had beaten her sister. Sasuke would fight Gaara. Kankuro would fight Shino. Shikamaru would fight Temari, and Dosu would fight the winner of their match. Once that was done, they were dismissed. "I'm so proud of you too," Kushina said on the way home. Minato wasn't with then since he had to start setting up the Chunin exams and look into Orochimaru's little plan. "That's great, Mom, but I lost," Minima said, still mad about the whole thing. "That's okay, it was your first exam and hardly anyone pass on their first go," Kushina said, sounding upbeat. "Hey, can I ask you something?" Naruko asked. "Go ahead," Kushina said, thinking about what she was going to cook for dinner. "Why did the jounin seem so happy when one of Accelerator's genin lost? I know he's kind of an asshole, but there were a few people like that. Naruko said, thinking she may be reading too deep into the situation. Kushina missed a step, but recovered without the girls noticing. That is just because he said so very rude things about the leaf. Naruko didn't think that was all he said, but if her mom didn't want to tell her, then it was none of her business. Also, I need to tell you girls a few things. This especially concerns you, Naruko, Kushina said. The girls looked at Kushina wondering what she had to say. You know that kid from the Sangara? Well, he's a jinchuriki. This hit Naruko hard. She never expected to meet another jinchuriki so soon, and he was even the same age as her. This got Naruko thinking about how different they were. He didn't even hesitate when crushing Lee's arm. Could she have been like that if she had stayed on the path she was on before Mito left? She wanted to say no, but she wasn't sure. Because of this, Minima and I have decided we're going to teach you too the Rasengan, Kushina said. Minima and Naruko both perked up at that. They had wanted to learn that jutsu since as long as they could remember, but Kushina always said they were too young. It was the one thing Naruko tantrums never got her. But what about our training, which Kakashi? Minima asked. There won't be any. Kakashi is training Sasuke personally since he's granted to fight Gaara, Kushina said. But if he does lose to Gaara, it will be up to you, Naruko, to beat him, so you have to win against Neji, Kushina said. Alright, I'll do my best, Naruko said. You better be, because learning the Rasengan is going to be anything but easy, Kushina said. Naruto walked towards his hotel thinking about how bored he was going to be for the next month. He honestly kind of wanted Dosu to lose, then he wouldn't have to participate in the invasion, although he was sure Orochimaru still would have made him show up. Naruto was thinking how much this month would suck when Naruto was suddenly aware that someone was following him. Naruto turned around to see who would be stupid enough to sneak up on a B-rank ninja. When he did, however, he was caught off guard. Not because it was a serious threat behind him, no, far from it. There was a square rock behind him. Naruto had only ever been stumped a few times in his life, but he seriously had no idea how to react to this awful disguise. Should he just walk away and pretend he didn't see anything? That seemed like the best option, but before Naruto was able to completely turn around, the rock flew up into the air and a boy with a long scarf ran at him. Naruto stepped to the side a little, not wanting to have to explain to Umbu why the boy had a broken wrist. The boy ran right past him, not being able to stop himself, and ran right into a trash can. Wow, you're really good, the boy said, climbing out of the pile of rotting food and discarded clothes. I'm Konohamaru, what's your name? He asked. Naruto walked right past him, hoping that he would just go away. Naruto already had to look after 3 brats, and he didn't think he could deal with even talking to another one. Hey, wait up, the brat said, running after Naruto. Don't talk to me, don't you know I'm not a leaf ninja? Naruto, hoping that would be enough to get him to leave. It was not. Of course I know that I can see your headband. Do you think I'm an idiot or something? Konohamaru said. Yes, was Naruto's simple answer. Konohamaru didn't even seem to hear Naruto's reply as he kept on talking. You're here for the Chunin exams, right? I'm a Jounin brat. Naruto wished he hadn't said that as the brat's eyes lit up like a firework. Wow, really? Does that mean you go all over the elemental and do cool missions? If I say yes, will you go away? Naruto said, thinking how much trouble he would get in if he broke this kid's arm. Once again, the kid didn't seem to hear him. Hey, I have a question for you. Since you're not a leaf ninja, have by any chance you seen 3 girls? Their names are Mito, Hanabi, and Hitomi. Naruto looked at him, though the corner of his eye. Naruto couldn't believe he mentioned those names to a complete stranger. The runaways was supposed to be a secret, so other nations wouldn't go looking for them, although Naruto was pretty sure that the other nations had this information by now. What are they to you? They're my friends, of course, Konohamaru said. Naruto doubted it. None of the girls had ever mentioned him before. No, kid, I haven't seen them, so can't I leave now? Finally, Naruto's words seemed to get through to him. All right, then fine, I can see that I'm not wanted here. Konohamaru said, leaving Naruto alone. Naruto relived that he finally got that brat to leave, but why did he ask about the girls? Naruto was truly puzzled by this. He didn't seem like a close friend, so why was he concerned? As Naruto was thinking about this, a girl almost ran into him. She wasn't looking where she was going, and got so close to hitting Naruto that Naruto was positive that her reflection was going to send her flying back and break a few of her bones, but at the last second she spun of her foot to avoid Naruto. For a brief moment their eyes met. Naruto could see the reflection of his red eyes on the white pupilless eyes of the girl. That was all he saw before she ran past him. Naruto looked back at her to catch one last look to make sure he wasn't mistaken, but he knew he wasn't. The girl that had just passed him was Hanabi's older sister Hinata, but that girl wasn't at all what Hanabi described. Hinata was working hard. Naruto saw the sweat on her face when she passed. Hinata also had a look of determination in her eyes. Hanabi had described Hinata as a nervous wreck, but Naruto could see that this was no longer the case. It looks like the girl's departure had changed this village more than they thought. Come on, it's not that hard, Suigetsu said. Shut up. It only easy for you because you're made of the stuff, Hanabi said. The girls had been working on their elemental chakra training ever since Naruto left. The training was going really well if you asked the girls. If you asked Suigetsu, however, he would say it was going painfully slow. They were set up by a lake to help Hanabi with her water release. Suigetsu had told her that the first step to mastering water release was to control already existing water, so that was what Hanabi was trying to accomplish. She would put her hand in the lake and then try to move the water up her arm and eventually to her face. Hanabi had managed to get it half up her forearm, but that's when it would become too hard on her and the water would fall back down to the lake. Hanabi was actually the farthest in her training thanks to Suigetsu's help, but then again he asked Hanabi about opening the scroll every few hours. Mito and Hitomi were also making remarkable progress for not having a teacher to help them. Mito was working on her lighting release. She was holding a metal rod with the light bulb on the end. Her goal was to channel her lighting chakra into the rod and light up the bulb. She has gotten it a few times, but every time it stayed on for less than a second. Hitomi was holding a regular piece of paper and was trying to burn it. The only thing she has been able to do was make it warmer, and recently it even started to crinkle. While the girls were doing this for hours on end, Suigetsu would spend time swimming in the lake. Come on, just opening the scroll. I promise I won't leave when I get the sword. Besides, you can still work on this stuff on the go, Suigetsu said from the lake. I told you before, I'm not opening until I feel like I've made real progress on my water release, Hanabi said, getting tired of Suigetsu's complaining. He was like a little kid. But you have made really good progress, and so have Mito and Hitomi, Suigetsu whined. Hanabi was getting fed up with Suigetsu and lost her concentration, causing the water on her arm to fall back into the lake. See what you made me do, now I have to start over, Hanabi yelled. Starting over isn't that big of a deal, Suigetsu said, lifting his arm above the water, and as if it was as simple as breathing, Suigetsu made the water climb up his arm all the way to his hand. They continued this routine for 2 weeks as the girls got more in tune with their chakra. Mito was able to keep the light on for much longer. Hitomi's paper turned black and started to smoke, and Hanabi was able to get the water up to her shoulder, and this is why Hanabi finally decided to open the scroll. As much as they hated to admit it, Suigetsu had helped them considerably. Even with Hitomi and Mito, who had chakra natures he knew little about. He had also helped them with their taijutsu, so now they were in the land of waves, standing in front of the great Naruto bridge. Hey, doesn't he want his name to be kept a secret? Suigetsu said, taking yet another sip of water. Yeah, I don't know why he has a bridge named after him, Mito said. I guess it doesn't matter, let's just get my sword. I don't want to stay here too long. We're in the land of fire, and if you three are discovered, Accelerator will have my head, Suigetsu said. I agree, Hitomi said. They walked around town asking about the sword, and they found out where it was. They also found out that it was Kakashi, Naruko, Minama, and Sasuke who took down Zabuza. Who knew that it would be Accelerator's sisters who took down Zabuza-sensei? Suigetsu said, walking up the mountain where the villages supposedly buried Zabuza. Mito was also surprised. She didn't think her sister were strong enough to take on one of the 7 swordsmen. Naruto could beat Zabuza. Mito was sure of that, but Suigetsu was just a swordsman apprentice, so Mito wasn't sure if he could beat Zabuza, and Suigetsu kick all 3 of their asses during taijutsu training. So did that mean that Minama and Naruko were already that much stronger than her, and possibly as strong as Suigetsu? Mito clenched her fists at the thought. She was falling behind. She would have to pick it up. Unknown to her, Hanabi and Hitomi were having similar thought. They got to the top of the mountain, and there it was, Suigetsu's new sword stinking out of the ground. "Come to Papa," Suigetsu said, running towards it. Mito, Hitomi and Hanabi didn't know what to make of the sword. It was huge. They didn't even see how anyone could lift it alone, fight with it, but Suigetsu seemed to have no problem pulling it out of the ground. He examined the blade, letting the sunlight hit it. "Oh yeah," Suigetsu said before strapping it to his back. "So now that you have your sword, are you going to leave us?" Hitomi said. "Sorry, but no, you see, not only am I going to keep my promise, but I have a special interest in you 3. Suigetsu said. The girls were stunned. Suigetsu had an interest in them? He certainly didn't show it when he was training them. "And what is this interest?" Mito asked. Suigetsu smiled. "Don't you remember my goal?" "Yeah, to collected the 7 swords." Hanabi said. "That's only half of it," Suigetsu said. "You see, I can't possibly use all the swords at one time, so I want to recreate the 7 swordsmen, and Accelerator has so kindly shown me some good candidates. How do you 3 feel about learning some kenjutsu?" The girls couldn't believe what they were hearing. Suigetsu was offering to give them one of the 7 swords. Mito was just thinking of ways to get more power, and Suigetsu was offering it to her. "Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt," Mito said, trying not to sound too excited. "Alright, I teach you a few things, but since Accelerator's going to be done with the invasion soon, we better get back to the Land of Frost," Suigetsu said. "Hi," the girl said, excited to have a second sensei. Konoha *. Naruto was sitting in the arena where the final stage of the Chunin exams would take place. He had been bored out of his mind for the past month. His only source of entertainment had been watching Hanabi's sister. He had discovered that she ran the same path every day as part of her training. Naruto liked to compare her to Hanabi and see what the difference between them was. She wasn't as strong as Hanabi yet, but her pace was incredibly, and if Hanabi didn't work just as hard, then Hinata would catch up. Watching Hinata was not nearly enough to keep him entertained for long, however. Naruto was hoping that these fights could brighten him up a bit before the invasion began. Naruto's last genin would not be fighting, however, since he got himself killed on Orochimaru's orders. It was no loss to Naruto. Dosu was nothing to him, and honestly his fights were boring to watch. Thinking of fights, the genin were lining up in the arena. The tournament was about to begin. The first fight was between Neji and Naruko. The next match was supposed to be Sasuke against Gaara, but Sasuke hadn't shown up yet. This was an obvious problem to the invasion plan, since they were supposed to start when Gaara went into his beast mode during their match. Naruto was wondering how much Orochimaru was sweating up there in the Kage box. Naruto knew that Orochimaru was disguised as the Kazekage, and Naruto assumed he had killed the real one, a fact that he was also sure that the Sannin had no idea about. Naruto was also curious on how the Hokage and his wife, who was also in the Kage box, would react to seeing the one who took their precious son away from them. Naruto just hoped Orochimaru wouldn't spill the beans on him when he ultimately got his ass handed to him by the Hokage. Naruto heard the roar of the crowd and looked back down at the match that had already started. Neji took care of another one of Naruko's Shadow's clones. "Come on, is this all you can do? This is the same strategy you used on Kiba," Neji taunted, taking out 2 more clones. Naruko didn't say anything and made 3 more clones to replace the ones she lost. Naruko knew, however, that her clones weren't getting through to Neji and was trying to think of plan. Unfortunately for Naruko, she had spent the entire month learning the Rasengan. She did manage to learn it, well, sort of. She needed the help of one of her clones to make it since she still had horrible chakra control. She could use it on Niji, but she had the feeling that Niji also had something up his sleeve, plus she wanted to save her new move to use on either Gaara or Sasuke if he showed up, that is. Meanwhile, Niji was still tearing fought Naruko's clones and she was having a hard time replacing them quick enough. The whole goal of Naruko's shadow clones were to make her opponent use up chakra, but Niji was hardly using any in his gentle fists. It was a huge problem for Naruko since even with the Kyuubi Shadows clones still used up a bunch of chakra. What Niji didn't know, however, was that Naruko had been slowly making a ring of Shadows clones around him, and the ones that had been fighting had just been to keep his eyes focused on them and not the other clones, and now it was finally complete. The clones that were currently fighting Niji jumped back to join the ring and every clone pulled at two kunais. "You're surrounded, just give up, Niji," one of the clones said. "I don't think I will, as fate has determined that I'm the one who will win this match," Niji said, just as arrogant as ever. "Then I hope your hospital room is comfortable," Naruko's clone said, and all of them threw their kunais as Niji. 8 trigrams palm rotation. Niji yelled, spinning around so fast that a dome of chakra appeared around him. It sent Naruko's kunais all over the place. A few even found their ways into Naruko's clones, dispelling them. Once Niji stopped spinning, he pointed to his eyes and said, "Did you really believe I didn't see your clones surrounding me?" Naruko cursed herself and jumped back a ways since her ring of clones had been broken by that attack, but Niji wouldn't have that as he rushed Naruko, closing more than a few of her chakra points before Naruto's clones could come and distract him. Now Naruko was in real trouble. Her feet were numb and she couldn't even feel her left hand anymore, and since she couldn't feel her left hand, she couldn't do hand signs, and if she couldn't do hand signs, then she couldn't make more shadow clones. Naruko recalled the 6 odd clones that hadn't been dispelled by Niji. Niji wasn't going to give her enough time to think of a new plan, however, as he rushed Naruko and her clones. The only thing Naruko could think to do was send all her clones at Niji at once. She had her clones form a circle around Niji just like last time, although on a much smaller scale. When they threw their kunais, Niji once again used his palm rotation and blocked the kunais, but Naruko was ready this time. Right when Niji stopped spinning, Naruko rushed at him. She was so close to landing a knockout punch, but Niji was prepared for this. When Naruko got in range, Niji shouted 8 trigrams 64 palms. He landed every hit on Naruko, who was forced almost halfway across the arena. Her legs felt like jelly and her arms were not completely useless. On top of that, all her clones had disappeared since she no longer had the chakra control to support them. "It looks like I win, although fate already decided I would," Niji said calmly, walking up to Naruko. "You should just give up." Naruko growled at Niji, unable to do anything else. She was out of strength and out of plans. She really should just give up, but she was too stubborn to do so. She was just so mad that she couldn't beat this bastard for Minima's sake. If only she had more power. Then it hit her, she did have more power. Tusan and Kasan would hate her for using it, but if it was enough to beat Niji, then she would take the punishment. The crowd was ready for the next fight, sure that Niji had won, but something unexpected happened to Naruko. Demonic chakra started leaking out. Minima, who was watching from the crowd, was afraid that Naruko had gone back to her old ways. Minato and Kushina were horrified that Naruko lost control of the Kyuubi after not having an accident for so long, although they now knew those weren't accidents. They were about to jump in and stop Naruko, but just as quickly as the chakra appeared, it disappeared, and with it Naruko had full use of her body. Niji, who had been caught off guard, was forced to take a punch to the face, and it made him disoriented. Naruko then overwhelmed him with Shadow's clones. He was too disoriented to put up a decent defense and was knocked out. Naruto actually thought Naruko pulled off a pretty good move with her demonic chakra. She used it to basically flush out her chakra network and restore it to normal. It was a dangerous move, however. Leak too little and it doesn't work. Leak too much and you lose control. Naruto was amusing himself with the idea that Naruko would lose control and help their invasion, but then Naruto remembered. It was Sasuke's fight, but he wasn't here to take part. As Naruto was figuring out what impact this would have on the invasion plan, the Hokage announced that the second match was to be pushed back to the last match, probably under Orochimaru's suggestion. So the third match was announced, which Kankuro then forfeited. So the fourth match began. It was not nearly as flashy as Naruko's match, but it was still enjoyable, especially to Naruto, who despite his rather flashy vector control enjoyed outsmarting an opponent than just running at them at full force. The fight ended when Shikamaru used a clever trick with his shadows to take control of Tamari's body. Then he forfeited, which was a shock to most of the spectators, but Naruto had a feeling from watching the way Shikamaru fought that he was going to forfeit. Then it was on to Sasuke match, who had still yet to show up. He was given 10 minutes to show or forfeit his match. Naruto wondered what was keeping Sasuke. He didn't seem like the type to wuss out, so what could he be doing? Naruto's question was answered when a smoke cloud appeared in the center of the arena with Kakashi and Sasuke in it. What assholes, not only were they late, but they had to make a big entrance too. Naruto said out loud. Sasuke's curse mark was gone and he looked ready to go. Alright Sasuke, I'll be watching from the audience, so give me a good fight. Kakashi said. Hi, Sasuke said, staring down Gaara, who started walking down the stairs towards the arena. Kakashi then shunshined right next to Naruto. Mind if I sit here? He asked. I don't mind, wouldn't want you to miss Gaara killing your student because you were late. Naruto replied. I'm sure he'll be fine, but if you want to talk about being late, where's your student? Kakashi said, sending Naruto's blow right back at him. I have no idea. Naruto said angrily. The fight between Sasuke and Gaara was heated right for the get-go. Sasuke could now move fast enough to avoid Gaara's sand. This was a big blow to Gaara, since up-close combat was his weakest point. To stop Sasuke from getting past his sand, Gaara surrounded himself in it. Sasuke used a move that Naruto hadn't seen before. He basically made a blade of lightning around his hand and he was able to move at a very fast speed. Apparently that jutsu was no joke either, because it pierced right through Gaara's sand, and that's when all hell broke loose. At first it was quiet. Nothing made a sound. Then a scream that sounded like the scream of a wounded animal came from the arena. Then a very large hand that looked to be made of sand shot out from the dome. Sasuke avoided it, but the trouble was just beginning. White feathers started raining from the sky, and at the same time a purple barrier was erected, trapping the Kage box inside. Naruto knew what was going on, had used his vectors to disturb his chakra, so he wouldn't be caught in the genjutsu. As the civilians and the less skilled ninja in the audience were collapsing, a giant snake broke through the village walls and let in a swarm of sand and sound ninja. Along with them, sound ninja who were hiding in the audience started attacking the leaf ninja who had broken the genjutsu. Kakashi stood up, took out a kunai and turned to Accelerator, knowing that he was part of the invasion. Accelerator gave him a smile that should have belonged to a serial killer. Before Kakashi even tried to attack, Accelerator stomped his foot on the ground, and what happened next both amazed and terrified Kakashi. Multiple cracks started tearing through the ground. It only took a second for Kakashi to realize what was going on. He jumped away from Accelerator right before that entire section of the arena collapsed. Once the dust settled, Kakashi looked around for Accelerator, but it was no use. He was nowhere to be found, and Sound Ninja were already starting to make their way into the arena. It was only now that Kakashi noticed that Gaara and Sasuke had disappeared just like Accelerator. Kakashi wanted to look for him, but he knew that he had to stay here and protect the people that hadn't been killed by Accelerator's attack. Kakashi just defeated 2 Sound Nin when Minima ran up to him. Minima, where is Naruko? Kakashi asked. She followed Sasuke, who ran off to chase Gaara. But what's going on? Who's attacking us? Minima replied. That's just great. Kakashi said, thinking what trouble Naruko would get herself into. Judging from the giant snake they're using, I'm guessing the Sound Nin are actually Orochimaru's soldiers. Minima suddenly seemed to snap to attention at the thought of fighting Orochimaru's minions. What do you want me to do? Minima asked. Go escort the villagers to the bunkers inside the Hokage mountain and then take shelter there yourself. Kakashi replied as more Sound Nin started coming towards him. But I can fight too. I want to help. Minima begged. That's not your job. As a genin you need to help the villagers. Kakashi said hastily as he ran to meet the sound ninja. Minima was infuriated. Here were a bunch of people who could know where Naruto was, and yet Kakashi tells her to hide instead of forcing them to tell her. Well, if he thought that was going to happen, then he was dead wrong. Sasuke followed Gaara all the way into the forest. He almost had to fight Kankuro, but Shino had shown up to fight him. Now Sasuke was facing Gaara, who had created a second sand arm. He had hit Temari into a tree, knocking her out, so it was just the two of them. Sasuke was surprised by how fast Gaara was now. Sasuke was barely dodging Gaara's attacks. The fight was becoming more and more draining on Sasuke. He eventually decided that the only way he could win was to use his Chidori a second time. He managed to cut one of Gaara's arms off, and Sasuke thought he had finally done some serious damage, but this was proven incorrect as the arm reattached itself and it only seemed to make Gaara angrier. He grew a sand tail and came rushing at Sasuke. Sasuke had already used his max of 2 Chidoris and didn't have the strength left to dodge. Gaara used his tail to hit Sasuke, and Sasuke was sent through a few trees before hitting the ground. Gaara walked up to him with a murderous look in his eyes. Sasuke was sure that Gaara was going to kill him, but right before he smashed his giant hand on Sasuke, he heard someone screamed, "Rasengan!" Gaara turned to look at Naruko, who had just jumped out of the trees. He had been caught off guard, and now Naruko's Rasengan was just a few centimeters from his face. When it did hit, Gaara was set flying into the trees just like Sasuke did. However, he was sent way farther than Sasuke was. "I guess it's a good thing that I came to help, or you'd be dead right now," Naruko said to Sasuke. "Whatever," Sasuke said. Their conversation was interrupted, however, when a roar came from where Naruko sent Gaara flying. A huge creature made entirely of sand rose from the forest, and if you looked closely you could see Gaara stinking out of the head, sleeping. "Crap, this isn't good," Naruko yelled. She and Sasuke ran away as the creature tried to step on them, but instead of stomping them, something else happened to the creature. Multiple explosions went off right next to his head, causing it to step back. Then a giant fireball was shot at its head, blinding it in smoke. "Who is that?" Naruko said. "I know you it is," Sasuke said, although he didn't seem happy. Then someone landed in front of them. "You know I can take care of myself, Itachi." Itachi turned to look at Naruko and Sasuke with his Sharingan already activated. "I know, but you're facing the one tail with little chakralet, so I thought I should help. Besides, you shouldn't run off." Sasuke didn't look happy. Naruko frowned at him before facing Itachi. "Forget about him, I'm actually glad you came to help us, so what should we do?" Itachi pointed to the Shikaka's head, which was finally become visibly as the smoke was clearing. "We need to wake up Gaara, then the Shikako personality should be suppressed." "And how are we going to do that?" Naruko asked. "I'll take you up there and let you punch him," Itachi said. "How are you going to get me up there?" Naruko asked. A few seconds later, Naruko was riding piggyback on Itachi. It was very odd to see Itachi, someone who is usually so stoic and calm, to be carrying a Naruko like a little kid. It was especially shocking to Sasuke, who had never seen Itachi do anything even close to this. "You ready?" Itachi asked. Naruko had a slight blush being in this embarrassing position with Itachi, but replied that she was. Itachi ran towards the one tail, who had regained its senses after Itachi's attack and was now spitting giant balls of wind at them, but Itachi dodged expertly and got to the Shikaka's leg before starting to run up it. The Shikaka tried desperately to swat them off, but Itachi was just too fast. He climbed all the way to his head, where he dropped Naruko off. "It's up to you now," Itachi said before doing a backflip in front the Shikaka's eyes. He sent 2 fireballs at the one tail's eyes, blinding him again and giving Naruko the chance to punch Gaara without the Shikaka's interference, and that's just what Naruko did. One good hard punch to the face shook Gaara awake, and the one tail was forced back in Gaara, leaving Gaara to fall to the ground below. Naruko landed gracefully on her feet and turned to look at the beaten form of Gaara. How did I lose?" Gaara asked seemingly to himself, but Naruko had a feeling he was actually asking her. "Gaara, do you know what I see when I look at you?" Naruko asked. Gaara didn't respond, but Naruko knew that he was listening. "I see what I could have become. I was so close to being what you are now, but then I lost something important to me and I realized that if I kept going down that path I would keep losing the things I held precious. The truth is, Gaara, if it was just me then I would have lost, but it wasn't. I had Sasuke and Itachi to help me." Naruko pointed to where Temari was lying. "There's a person that wanted to help, but you refused and now look, you lost. I can't live your life for you, but I will tell you that you can change too, and when you do I hope we can have a rematch." Naruko didn't know this at the time, but her words really did get through to Gaara. Naruto was walking down the streets of Konoha, occasionally having to step over a body. Naruto predication had been right, they were losing the battle. The sound and sand ninja were being wiped out by the leaf nin. The snake they had used to break down the wall had been killed by Jiraiya, and the barrier that Orochimaru had put up to fight the Hokage was no longer there. Naruto wondered if Orochimaru was dead. Probably not, since Minato would try to keep him alive to get information about his lost son, and since Minato or Izumbu hadn't come after him yet, Naruto would assume that Orochimaru escaped. Naruto hadn't really been fighting in the invasion. He would just calmly walk down the city streets, and if a leaf nin engaged him then Naruto would kill him, but other than that Naruto didn't fight. If it wasn't for the sound headband he was wearing, you would be hard-pressed to actually realize he was an invading ninja. Naruto was an invading ninja, however, so it was probably time to leave and head back to the Land of Frost. Naruto started making his way to the gate when a golden chain swung at him from the side. Naruto assumed the attacker had planned for the chain to wrap around him and capture him, but instead it bounced off Naruto harmlessly. Naruto turned around to look at his attacker, although he already had a pretty good idea of who it was. "You know you have some guts to be attacking a jounin." Minima was standing in the street, her chain coming out of the palm of her hand. Her eyes had the fire of anger in them, along with the confusion of why her chain didn't hit Accelerator. "I attacked you because I knew you are one of Orochimaru's high ranks, so I want to know something." "Where the hell is my brother?" Minima screamed. "I don't feel like answering that question," Naruto said as he pulled his pebble from his side pocket and threw it at Minima. Minima was shocked to see that the pebble was going so fast, but she was able to use her chain and block it. "That was pretty good. Most of the time people are too stunned to see that I'm using a pebble as a weapon, but just because you blocked one doesn't mean anything." Naruto reached into his pocket again and this time pulled out a handful of pebbles. "Let's see you block this." Accelerator threw all the pebbles at once and they were all going just as fast as the first one, something that should have been impossible. Minima dodged along with blocking them with her chain to avoid getting hit. How was he able to throw them all so fast? He didn't even wind up his shot, Minima thought. Accelerator kept throwing pebbles until he finally reached into his pocket and found out that he had used all of them. Minima sighed in relief. She could finally take the offensive. "Just give up, you out of ammo, so just tell me where my brother is and I promise not to hurt you." Accelerator tilted his head to the side and gave Minima a look that made it seem like she just suggested the stupidest thing in the world. "You really think just because I'm out of pebbles you've won? Well, I got news for you, I can throw other things than just pebbles." Accelerator reached into his back pocket this time and pulled a gray-colored ball that was about the size of Accelerator's hand and looked to be made of rubber. "You know you have the strangest weapons," Minima said, not sure if she should be laughing or not. Accelerator gave her a psychotic grin and said, "You know, it might not look like much, but this ball is going to make you wish I hadn't run out of pebbles." Then Accelerator threw the ball like a baseball. It was going mildly faster than the pebbles, but it didn't matter. Minima didn't even have to move. The ball sailed right past Minima's head. "You were saying something about that ball giving me some trouble," Minima said, taking a step forward. "Well, I show you some Trubo W." Minima screamed as she felt something drilling into her back. She could feel it tearing through her clothes and it was burning her skin, but just as quickly as the object came it went away. The pain did not, however. Minima turned around to see what had hit her and saw the ball that Accelerator had thrown bouncing off a wall behind her. When it bounced off the wall, Minima could see a mark on the wall where she assumed it hit the first time. The ball bounced at an angle, so instead of going back to Minima, it went back to Accelerator, who caught it. It was still going pretty fast when it was heading towards him, but right when it touched his hand, it was like all the speed was lost. You know, the only thing I had for most of my childhood was books and this ball. I threw this ball every day for years, and I learned every angle it would bounce and every way that I could throw it to make it bounce at that angle. Accelerator said. Minima was slumped down because her back hurt so bad. It was like someone had dipped a drill in magma and used it on her back. I won't lose to you, Minima said. That's a pretty bold claim considering that you haven't hit me once and I've barely been trying. But since you're so determined, I'll show you one of my real moves. Accelerator held his hand with the ball out and his palm facing down. Then he dropped the ball, but it was going so fast that it seemed like he threw it. The ball hit the ground and bounced back up to Accelerator's hand, but when it hit his hand, it was forced back down like he threw again, and this kept happening. Every time it went faster, and not too long after he started, a crater started to form on the ground, and it got bigger every time the ball hit the ground with more speed than it had the previous time. Eventually it got so fast that it just looked like a gray blur. Then Accelerator suddenly pulled his hand back and slapped it. Minima had no chance at all. The ball hit her before she could even register that Accelerator had hit it. It hit Minima's chest and she felt pain like she had never felt before. She was sure a couple of her ribs were broken on impact, but that wasn't the worst part. The ball was spinning so fast that it was actually causing her clothes to smoke. That was before it torn through and hit her skin. It felt like what had happened to her back, but 100 times worse. After what felt like a lifetime of pain, the ball bounced off Minima and back to Accelerator, and just like before, he caught the fast-moving object as if he was just playing catch with a friend. Minima collapsed to her knees, and Accelerator put the ball back in his back pocket. "I'm done with you," he said before starting to walk off. Minima was in pain and probably needed medical attention immediately, but she just couldn't let him get away. She painfully got to her feet and formed a Rasengan. It took every ounce of strength she had, but she forced herself to run at Accelerator. She could see him looking at her from the corner of his eyes, but he didn't do anything to stop her. She was almost there when suddenly she came to a halt. The Rasengan was so close to Accelerator that it was just a few inches away from his hair. "Man, that was a close one," a voice said from behind Minima. Minima shifted her eyes as best she could to see who had stopped her. She was surprised to see Shikamaru with his Shadow Passion Jutsu active, and that when she realized that he had used it on her. "Shikamaru, why the hell would you stop me?" Minima yelled. "Haven't you been paying attention? At the beginning of the fight, your chain bounced off him like it was nothing and he wasn't even looking. If I hadn't have stopped you, then who knows what would have happened to your arm. What, you've been here the whole time, why didn't you help me?" Minima said, although she did realize that she owned Shikamaru for stopping her. "I knew there was no way I could beat him, and I hoped you would figure that out too, but apparently not," Shikamaru said. Naruto watched them argue back and forth. It seemed like they had completely forgotten about him. Naruto didn't really care, but it seemed like a good way to get yourself killed. These Leaf Ninja were to laid back even in the event of an invasion. "You two can sit here and chat all day, but I've got to go," Naruto said as he walked off. "What, come back here, you bastard, you still haven't told me where my brother is," Minima yelled and ended up coughing up blood. "Let him go, Minima. We can't fight him and you really need to go to a hospital," Shikamaru said, releasing his jutsu. It was only now that Minima looked down to see how bad the damage was, and she almost lost her lunch when she did. Her clothes were burned right through and her chest was scarred black. The blood was crusted up on the sides of the wound. Blood was running down her stomach and pooling on the ground. Minima could only assume her back was in a similar state, just not as bad. "Yeah, I think you're right, let's go." Minato was in his office with Jiraiya after the invasion. "Damn it, I can't believe I let Orochimaru get away," Minato cursed. "There was nothing that you could have done. Orochimaru got the jump on us. We should just be glad that not too many people were killed. Jiraiya said. By the way, how is Minima doing? Minato signed. Tsunade said she'd be alright, although the injury is defiantly going to leave a scar and Minima will have to spend a while in the hospital. Kushina and Naruko are with her now, but Kami Jiraiya, did you see what Accelerator did to her? Yeah, I saw, and I bet Kushina want to get her hands on Accelerator, especially since he has links to Orochimaru. Jiraiya said. Yeah, about that, has your spies been able to locate Orochimaru or any of his men? Minato said. Well, apparently Accelerator really does live in the Land of Frost, but it's been hard to get information on him since I have so little spies there. I never sent more in because it was never a priority, but now I've more than tripled the amount of spies in the village he lives in, so if he comes back I'll know. Jiraiya said. What are the odds he'll return? Minato asked. Well, even with all the bounty hunters after his B-class rank, he never moved, so I'm thinking it's pretty good. Jiraiya said. Just then a knock came from the door. Come in, Minato said. Shikamaru walked through the door. Hello, what are you here for? Hello Hokage, I've come to talk to you about Accelerator. Shikamaru said. Jiraiya and Minato both leaned forward, eager to hear what he had to say. I saw the entire battle between Minima and him, and I think I have a pretty good grasp on his skills along with how to beat them. Minato was awed. Well, come on, tell me. Before I say anything, I think you should know that the bingo book is wrong. Accelerator isn't a B rank. From what I saw, he's a high A rank, probably even an S rank, since I didn't see him try very hard. Shikamaru said. The room descended into silence. Was Accelerator really that strong? A week later, Land of Frost. Naruto was finally back. It took him forever since he had to sneak out of the Land of Fire, but he made it. He opened the door to his house and was blasted with a stream of water. It was reflected, of course, but it still blocked Naruto's sight. When he could finally see, he saw Hanabi standing in front of him with a very proud look on her face. Hitomi and Mito were standing beside her, looking equally proud. I'm guessing you got a hold of your elements. Naruto said. You bet we did. Mito said. That's great, now where's Suigetsu? Naruto said, walking past them and into the living room. Hey, we haven't seen you for almost 2 months and you're more concerned about him than us. Hitomi complied, following Naruto into the living room along with the other girls. Suigetsu was spread out of the couch looking at his sword, and to Naruto's surprise he wasn't the only one there. Kai's was also in the room, sitting in a chair. Accelerator, you're finally back. Kai said, getting up for his seat. We've got a problem. Jiraiya increased his spies tenfold, and they're looking for you, and I don't have the people to keep them off you. Naruto cursed himself. There was no way they didn't see him walking through the street so causally and into his house. They haven't found out about the girls yet, have they? Naruto asked. No, they haven't been targeting this house, and I told you girls not to leave, but since you back, it's going to be almost impossible to get them out without Jiraiya's spies noticing. Kai said. Damn, that bites. I'll have to think of something. Naruto said to himself. But that's for later. Suigetsu, I see the girls already got you your sword, so there's nothing else for you to do, so you're free to leave. Actually, I think I'd be staying with you. Suigetsu said, getting off the couch. You see, I've decided I'm going to teach the brats Kenjutsu so they can become the new generation of swordsmen, if that's okay with you, of course. Naruto raised an eye, not expecting Suigetsu wanting to stay, but it didn't matter to him. It's fine if you want to stay, but just remember that my problems are you problems, which includes the one we're having right now. That's fine. Suigetsu replied. All right, now to fix the problem at hand. Naruto said, but just then they all heard the front door being opened. Everyone got into fighting position except for Naruto. They wouldn't launch an attack this soon, would they? Naruto thought. Everyone waited to see who would come through the living room and was surprised to see an old man with a torn traveling clock on. Although they knew something wasn't right. Hey, why don't you take Henj off? Hanabi said with her Byakugan active. A Hyuga impressive. The man said before he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Now standing there was a tall man with orange hair wearing cloaks that Naruto recognized. They were the same cloaks Orochimaru used to wear, but that wasn't what shocked Naruto the most, it was his eyes. They were like nothing Naruto had ever seen before. Just who are you? Naruto asked. I'm Pain, the leader of an organization called the Akatsuki, and I would like to speak to you, Accelerator, or should I say Naruto Namikaze.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.